Welcome back to the Speed Shack. It has been many moons since I released a video. Partly because we lost a load of footage thanks to some crap editing software and my inability to have any backups, and partly because I've been really busy doing other shit. Had a bit of a holiday throughout the summer, been a bit of new tattoo work, so a bit of time off for that. Generally just very busy. There's been some big progress with the E30 project. You will notice this video is no longer called the E30 V8 project, because the V8 has gone. There is madness behind my method for doing that. It's a sensible decision for me anyway, and I'll explain that as we go. The new direction with the project is a 2.8 litre straight 6 turbo, and my original thoughts were somewhere in the region of 400 horsepower at the back wheels, which would make for a very lively daily driver. May have gone slightly overboard with the turbo though. Let me show you. Right then, this is the M52 V8 TU. It is a 2.8 litre straight 6 cylinder 24 valve with twin Vanos control on here, which allows you some degree of cam control, variable cam control. So this was from a 99 528i and it was a bargain. Couldn't say no. It runs well, and it's done in the order of 120,000 miles. It's going to be getting a little bit of a freshen up in this project. However, you will see here my not so little friend. This is a GT45 turbo. Yes, it's big. Really big. 4-inch intake, give or take. Pretty much the same for the exhaust on a V-band clamp. It's very heavy. There's going to need to be some substantial bracing for this. She is going to have to sit somewhere around here. We may have to lose a headlight for it. Don't know yet. Might be able to play some tunes with the inner wheel arch and make a bit of space. But the turbo is from Max Speed Rods and was very cheap, so I couldn't say no again. And because of that, things get slightly more silly than I intended. They may get out of hand, like really silly. So we'll see where that leads to. Don't expect much in the way of sensible stuff from here on out, because this changes things. Now, where we are with the project, the engine is mounted into place. As you can see, we're using E36 engine mounting arms with E39 rubber donuts, and I have modified the subframe to clear the sump. Underneath here, we have the sump of the engine, and as you can see, there's the sump. There is the original subframe, and the original subframe would have gone straight through the sump here. Now there's no chance of lifting the engine high enough to clear it. That's just not going to work. So what I've done is cut the subframe straight through to give clearance for the sump, and moved the cross brace forwards, made a new one from a bit of thick-walled mild steel and some 4mm mild steel plates on top. They are welded to the original subframe, and it all needs boxing in, triangulating through, but for now it allows me to mount the motor in with the steering rack and actually check for clearances on the sump, which are good. You should be able to see just here that here we have the engine mounting bracket. There we have my new addition, and down there you can see the cut subframe. It needs finishing off. It is just tacked in there for mounting purposes at the minute, but it allows fitment of the engine and the gearbox, so I can get alignment right, check for clearance around things, make sure the bonnet still closes and we've got clearance on the top of the engine, which we have. There are a couple of inches, which is lovely. So, progress. Now, back to the V8. The V8 is gone. We had some revelations. So, the intent with the V8 was all well and good. 285 horsepower, super comfy, wafty daily driver with an amazing soundtrack to go with it. And the V8 that was in this was 4.4 twin single Vanos, but two of them on the intake cams, and the Steptronic automatic gearbox behind it. There's a lot of complex wiring on it, so I went out and bought the Bentley Publishing service manuals. These are some hefty bloody manuals. Over 2,000 pages between them. First one is the service manual and the mechanicals, and the second manual in that box over there is the electronics. These are the Bible when it comes to all things E39, which is good because this engine was out of an E39 as well, so I've not just wasted my money on them, which I like because I'm tight. So, what was it that put me off about the V8, I hear you say? It was the fact that the dynamic stability control, or the DSC or the ASC, the automatic stability control, whatever you want to call it, on that engine ran from the ABS module and ran into all the other systems. So you had an engine ECU, a gearbox ECU, the ABS control module, body control modules, everything for that V8 engine. And the transmission controller took a speed signal from the ABS system. Without that speed signal, it would go into limp mode. You wouldn't be able to run it. So you need the signals, you need the ABS working. And the revelation, even with the ABS system turned off, the ASC module senses a difference in wheel speed. The ASC system applies modulated braking force to the slipping wheel until traction is regained. Not on my watch, it doesn't. Put pay to all ideas of skidding the car around. Want to do a burnout? Nah. Nanny BMW steps in to stop that bullshit. Not good. So there was a couple of options to allow me to do skids in this car and allow me to do burnouts and generally destroy tyres and warm up the earth because it's cold. First of which was an automatic gearbox controller and standalone engine management to go with it. They run you up in the order of, I don't know, between 1,500 and 2 grand. Second option was a manual gearbox from a BMW M5 or an E36 M3 Evo, both of which are rare as rocking horse shit and run in the order of 1,200 quid just for the gearbox. You've got a clutch system and an ECU for the engine to boot. Priced it all up, you're looking at about 3 grand for those, and for 285 horsepower, that's ludicrous money to me. I can make much more out of this engine for a lot less. And the third option was a manual gearbox conversion kit consisting of a bell housing adapter to allow you to fit a gearbox from a different car to that engine, with an adapter clutch and then a standalone ECU for the engine. And again, you're looking in the order of 3 grand. It's silly money, especially if it was 500 or 600 horsepower. Then yeah, I could have stomached that, and I would understand it a little bit more. But for 285 to 300 horsepower, it just doesn't make sense to me at all. When I can get the 6-cylinder for less than 500 quid with a manual gearbox, 5-speed manual on this, and turbo it all in for less than the 3 grand and double the power output. So that explains why the V8 is gone, why the 6-cylinder is here, and if you've watched the first video, ignore the fucking lot. It is nonsense. It wasn't nonsense when I didn't know that, but now we know that, nonsense. So what have we learned? My hypocrisy knows no bounds? Maybe. I'm good at that though. And we like really large turbos. We do. We really do. And other than that, it's kind of where we are really. We've got a lot of work to do still to mount the gearbox in place. The floor's been cut out, so there's no area for me to mount the gearbox mount to. So the next job is to weld in some floors into this thing, or some sections into the floor where they've been cut out. And that way then we can run some bolts through, hold the gearbox into place and check the alignment with the diff. Make sure they're at the same angle, because the engine and the diff, or the gearbox output and the diff, both need to be parallel. Otherwise you can end up with some very nasty vibrations and harmonics going on. A little bit of vertical misalignment is okay, or horizontal misalignment to a certain degree is okay, but they must be parallel. So that's the next job. Get that done and throw some gearbox mounts on it. Once that's done, I can whip all this engine subframe out, box it all in properly, weld it all up, and we'll get some decent footage of that. So that's it for today. It's a quick update, an introduction again to the big spoolie boy that is this GT45. It's outrageous. I bloody love it. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next time. Hopefully it won't take quite as long as this video has, and stay safe. Thanks again folks, see you soon.